Welcome to today's Coach's Corner segment. I'm Mike Van Hooser, and we wanted to build on the theme that we talked about earlier this week about time in our Monday Morning Moments podcast episode. And we'll put a link to that post on this as far as the YouTube channel and also in the show notes for the audio podcast today, if you didn't catch that short intro to today's segment. But it's an interesting thing when we talk about time. I recorded that segment at a track. And we've just got through watching the Olympics this year, and a lot of times and records were broken based on time. And, a lot of people were running loops around the track. And I've often, done that myself in my own work and, and running and working on reducing my time. And we can get so caught up in chronological time that we forget those moments and miss the moments of impact and influence because we're so focused on, certain aspects of time and kind of rushing to get from one meeting to the next or one Zoom call to the next has been in the last year, or just to miss opportunities that are actually there as leaders to influence and impact other people. And so in that, we set up the segment today to really talk about it. We've introduced these two words of Chronos and Kairos. Chronos being chronological time, and that question of where do we need to be, which is important because we need to be places, but also this other word of Kairos, which really talks about seasons of opportunity or moments in time. And that's more impactful. That's really, who do I need to be? And that's the key question, I think, that I associate with Kairos. And the saying that we have, and it's kind of a new thing that we've been doing some research on about living a Kairos life in a Chronos world. And how do we really do that? So that's what we want to talk about today on today's Coach's Corner. I'll give you a couple of questions and a couple of tips on that. But I think that's really important, and just making sure that we don't miss the moments and who do we need to be in certain moments because we're so caught up in where do we need to be. Both are important. Who do I need to be in the time that I have? And that's the essence of living a Kairos life in a Chronos world. So I want to get right into some steps that I think that I've taken that may be helpful to you as far as how to do that. And I've shared that with some recent groups that I've been talking to as well. There are four kind of tips, and I'm going to deal with four questions as well. But the first one, I think, is just to be aware. Be aware that we have moments in our life, and be aware of ourselves in those moments, what our strengths are, what our gifts and talents and the opportunities that we have to encourage others, to empathize with others, to listen to others as well, but also to hear, what's being said and not being said by other people, to be aware of kind of verbal and nonverbal feedback that they're giving, and not just kind of pass it by if somebody says they're not doing okay, but to actually help them, in those moments, and to make sure we're aware of other people's needs. And that's such a need today. I mean, people are going through so hard times, so many hard times today, and so much anxiety and fear and doubt. And I'm involved in a lot of those conversations and coaching athletes. And I get to talk to so many people who are in need, whether it be elite athletes or business leaders, and talking about the mental side of what they're going through. And I think it's something that we have to make sure that we're aware of that and that we're there for people and we listen. But being aware is really important, and being aware of those opportunities. And again, who do we need to be in the context of the time that we have? So being aware is kind of number one, and living a Kairos life in a Chronos world. Number two is being prayerful, and that's just something that I've done in my whole life. And I think it's really important to understand and kind of seek wisdom, seek guidance, and from somebody that, and God who's created me and has designed you and I to know what we're about, know the talents and gifts that we have, and to seek that wisdom from Him. And that's meant a tremendous amount in my own life, and being prayerful about moments, being prayerful about what He wants me to do. And I think it also ties me to purpose. And when we're talking about living a Kairos life and making the most of the moments of our lives, we're talking about being more purposeful. And so that's just a key thing for me, and being in a prayerful attitude, a prayerful spirit, every day as I go out and whatever I do, that I'm doing that first with my family, but then in the things that I get to do every day, both personally and professionally, and not segmenting that, but becoming kind of that whole person in the moments that I have, and being that whole person. And being prayerful is a key technique to do that if you want to be more purposeful. A third thing is being positive. And so, and this isn't just, well, just be positive. If everything's falling apart around you, just be positive, smile. But that can help you in having a positive attitude and getting through some of the most challenging circumstances that you'll face. And I think we have to, be positive from a standpoint of thinking about things that are going to work for us. If we think about the fear, if we think about the anxiety and just dwell on that, then we're going to be more negative, and that's going to get bigger and bigger in our minds. And a lot of times we can't control certain circumstances that have happened to us, but we can choose our attitude in that moment. And I love the quote that says, life is, 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. And there's a lot of truth to that as far as our attitude in those moments can help us persevere through those opportunities to be more purposeful and to persevere through those opportunities that we have in those challenging circumstances. So being positive is important both in our attitude, but also being positive from a standpoint of trusting that we're going to get through this. When we're working with athletes and kind of they have a bad hole, say for a golfer, and I've worked with individual golfers and also with teams, we want them to be positive about trusting their game and not just throwing it all out if they miss a putt or if they have a bad hole. And sometimes our mind works that way because we have an enemy that tells us lies in that and wants to get us off track. And so it makes one moment in time almost the defining characteristic or defining moment of our life. And we get into this cycle of believing that lie. And that's not really the truth. And so being positive and trusting that, the talents and gifts and strengths that we have and the opportunities to persevere through certain moments is really important if we want to live a Kairos life in a Chronos world. But it's being positive on that path forward, even in the face of challenging circumstances. And then the last thing is being present. So all of those things kind of lead towards us being engaged in those moments that we have, and we have to be present. We don't want to let the thieves of the past or the thieves of the future kind of detract us and distract us from being present in the current moment. And we talk about that a lot. You hear me talk about being in the moment and being fully engaged, not only physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's really important for us if we want to make an impact and if we want to seize those moments and make a difference in the lives of other people in that Chronos world, in the context of the time that we have. And so being present is really important, and that's a process. We're going to have things that distract us. We're going to get off course. We're going to have distractions that happen in our lives. It's a challenge for me, every day as well. And I talk about this and teach about it and coach others on it too. But I think we have to make sure that we're in that process of being present, being fully engaged in the moments that we have in our lives. And so those are 4 things: being aware, being prayerful, being positive, and being present will all lead and help us and guide us to being, living this Kairos life in a Chronos world, making the most of the opportunities in the time that we have. I want to give you 4 questions that have been helpful for me as well. And these have been more in a spirit of quiet time and more in a spirit of prayer that I've had in certain moments in my life. And in fact, when I'm really seeking guidance about my calling or about my purpose or certain decisions that I need to make in, those moments in time, these have been really helpful to me. And the 4th one I'll get to in a second, but I think it's the one that we tend to go to first. What do I need to do? And I think if you're a type A personality or a leader, you're going to get right to that question first. But I think there's a sequence, and I'm going to give you that sequence that we need to get to that, because ultimately we'll get to a point of, well, what do we need to do in this moment? But these have been helpful in my quiet times and just asking, for guidance in this, and really guidance from God in these Kairos moments. And the first one is, God, what do you want to do in me? So, how is this a growth opportunity for me? What is this moment in time an opportunity for something in me? And it doesn't have to be a challenging situation. It could be just as you approach a conversation where you're going to encourage a friend, or they're going through a trying time. Maybe it's something that, it's a growth opportunity for you, or you're seeking the, advice of a mentor in a certain situation. But again, that focus inward on what growth do I need? What do you want to do in me? Then the second question is what leads to that then of what do you want to do through me? So this gets to the point of, offering guidance, empathizing, listening to other people. I think it begins with ourselves and thinking about those talents, gifts, and strengths, and then making the most of that opportunity about seeking what can be done through me in this opportunity, and based on how I'm wired and what this relationship with this person, and again, whatever the situation might be. But I've found that that's been a great conversation as well, and a great question to ask as far as what do you want to do through me? And then a third question, sometimes we have moments, they could be challenging moments or just great, successful championship moments. And a great question to ask is, who do you want me to meet? So being aware again of the people that we may meet along the way that we wouldn't have met had we not had that championship moment, or had we not had that valley moment. And there are plenty of things that I could testify about regarding challenging situations that I've gone through, that we've gone through in our family, where we met some people during the way that we both ministered to or provided a encouragement to because we had gone through the same struggle, or that we met that they had gone through that struggle and they were able to offer us guidance, wisdom, just encouragement, maybe just a listening ear as well. So being aware and asking that question, who do you want me to meet in these moments of opportunity, these Kairos moments? And then the fourth question is, what do you want me to do? And so now we get to the, action. Let's get down to action. But I think that sequence, what do you want to do in me? What do you want to do through me? Who do you want me to meet along the way? And also, what do you want me to do have been very helpful to me in living a more purposeful life and making the most of those Kairos moments in the Chronos world. So I hope this is helpful to you. The final thing I want to share with you, David Brooks wrote a great book called The Road to Character, and it's an awesome book about just this concept of living a full life and living a purposeful life. And he talks about resume virtues and eulogy virtues. And he's got some great quotes around that. But the resume virtues are basically things that you and I would do that build the resume. They're things we've accomplished, projects we've brought in on time, accomplishments we've had in our lives. And a lot of us can tend to focus on that, especially in that Chronos world of focusing on resume virtues. How much can I accomplish in the time that I have? And there's not anything necessarily wrong with that, but we can get in that loop and that treadmill of just continuing to try to accomplish thing after thing after thing. Success after success after success, trophy after trophy after trophy. And we miss the opportunities of what those moments provide for us to make an impact in the lives of other people. And then he contrasts resume virtues with eulogy virtues. Those are the ones of our character. Those are the ones that are spoken during our eulogy at our funeral. And we often don't want to think about that time, that funeral, or that celebration of life. But it's what are those things that are said about us from a character perspective that are going to be remembered. It's not going to be the project we brought in on time. It's not going to be the championship we won way back when. It's going to be who we were as a person. And as the funerals I go to, the celebrations of life that I've even been through in the last year, and there have been several, they talked about the impact that they made or the life they lived, and it really focused more on their character, a person of integrity, a true leader. Those kinds of things are brought up, and those are the kinds of things that are going to last. And we have to make sure we're investing in eternal things and living that legacy. That's what it means to really live a Kairos life in a Chronos world. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. I want to encourage you to, live a Kairos life in a Chronos world, to not get caught up in that track of just going around and around and around in these loops. not getting on a treadmill and thinking you have to keep up with everybody, but making sure that you assess kind of who you are, assess what you feel like your purpose is, and then be able to go out and make the most of those opportunities with the time that you have. Again, as we contrasted, Kairos and Chronos in these talks, we talked about Chronos represented by a clock, but Kairos represented by an hourglass. And we often despise the hourglass because it symbolizes that we only have so much time, but we can get into a false assumption of we'll always have time, and we don't. We only have a certain amount of time. And so making sure that we're where we need to be, but more importantly, that we're who we need to be in the context of those moments of opportunity and those moments of time that we do have. Again, make the most of the moments in your life. Let's focus on living a Kairos life and making the most of those opportunities in a Chronos world. And again, if there's anything we can do as far as coaching you or helping you with this concept, let us know. We've got links to our website, and we provide coaching to a lot of different types of people. And but most of all, I want you to lead out in the things that you've been called to and make the most of the opportunities that you have.